Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. Hope you guys are all having a good day. We're getting close to the 4th of July here. What we do see is a little bit of a cooling off today in terms of the tech stocks that are pulling back, and we're seeing a rotation, big portfolio rotations into more value-oriented stocks. And this is not a bad thing at all. We do have some uncertainties in terms of political news catalysts that are now sitting out there. We'll be talking about that. We got the whole Elon and Trump feud that's starting back up again. So let's get into the part 2 of the divorce. And is there going to be a makeup? We're going to be talking about where Tesla is trading at right now. And other than that, of course, we're going to have legacy media that says, markets in turmoil as they freak out, saying the markets are pulling back. They're breathing a little bit here, some choppiness and some consolidation before, during a short and trading week too, letting those moving averages come up. This is nothing personally that I'm concerned about. This is more just the market's taking a breath, and sometimes they do need a breath of fresh air in terms of consolidation. Pop it up on the screen here. What we see is Palantir is coming down to about 130 right here, holding kind of right at this previous resistance zone, kind of the support resistance flip right here. This 130 is an important level, but however, if we were to see continued pullback for Palantir, it has a decent amount of consolidation trading here in the mid 120s. And we actually saw it trading there for quite a while with a decent amount of support literally at $120. So Palantir here, it's up a little bit actually in the after hours, pulling back after it's tested that all-time high resistance of 150 twice now. Probably these tech stocks might be gearing up here. We'll see what kind of movement in terms of momentum there is tomorrow. But currently in the overnight hours, Palantir is only up about 62 cents, just kind of hanging out here at the 131. We do see Palantir, of course, that is continuing to establish those governmental contracts. It seems like every single day they're establishing some type of new partnership or collaboration, continuing to do very, very well. So good for them. Take a little bit of some fresh air right here, go on vacation. That's what Palantir seems to be doing. If we roll that on over to Robinhood. And now Robinhood, remember yesterday with their To Catch a Token event, Robinhood had an insane momentum and run up after it broke that all-time high of 85. We saw this thing run up and test basically $100 in the overnight session. What we see is Robinhood pulling back here to about 92.33. Like I said, as we're seeing some tech stocks and more of these industry disruptive stocks that are taking a little bit of a breather. Sitting here at 92, this is an incredible level. If we see momentum that continues here, recycles back into the market in terms of more risk on type of behavior, that's where Robinhood is possibly going to be testing that hundreds again. And if we see that breakthrough, then it gets into more of that, I think that FOMO and price discovery of, oh God, where's Robinhood going? The big question here is if this pullback continues, where is the decent entry point? Where is this thing going to reverse? We do know that Robinhood could possibly have a little bit of a reversal at about the 80s, or look down here, it does has a decent amount of consolidation and support at the lower 70s and at the mid 70s. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And talking about in the beginning of the video, we talked about rotation, what stocks are being rotated into. Look at United Health here having a pop-up. A lot of people have been talking about this. Up about 4.5% on the day. You see United Health that's been kind of hanging out here at the 300s. Gets a nice breakout here to 326, and people are saying what's next on the line is 340. If this continues to do well, for seeing this rotation into more of these value-oriented stocks, United Health could have an amazing comeback if they do execute well and things do align and the stars all align well. So good for anybody that's bought the dip on United Health because currently doing pretty well in the market. Let's talk about what we've seen with Tesla. Now, we know Elon Musk and Trump, they've had their feud before, but we see it pop back up. You can see here as Elon Musk knew long before that he strongly endorsed me for president, that I was actually strongly against the EV mandate. It is ridiculous, and it was always a part of my campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everybody should be forced to own one. We've seen Elon that's came out kind of, as we know, he starts to go on his rants on X saying, talking about the debt ceiling that's being raised. And that is because we do have a lot of news with the big, beautiful bill that has passed the Senate. And with that passing the Senate, that now goes onto the House. If it makes it through the House, then it arrives at Trump's desk. So concerned about the debt ceiling being raised. That's one of Elon's big takes. And now he's talking about, starting these different political parties, trying to, he announced that he was going to get away from politics, but he seems to be pulling it right back in. What you see with Tesla is hanging at a crucial price target. Now, I don't have any personal involvement with Tesla right now, but Tesla is just hanging out at this 300. This is a very, very big zone. We've seen a lot of trading activity for Tesla kind of at that 300. Even from a few years ago, Tesla has hanged out around this level. If it does fail that 300 zone, that's where you could see a dip that falls down, further between, or you could possibly see a reversal. That's when everybody's trying to figure out right now is what is going to be the re-entry for Tesla. Personally, I think I'll be sitting on the sideline just waiting to see what it does and how the news is going to continue to evolve, especially kind of throughout this week and going into next week. I don't know, in terms of conviction and certainty, how much of it does make sense. Now, if we look here, what we have from Amit talking from Trump, saying, I'm not thinking about extending the July 9th deadline, and I doubt we'll have a deal with Japan. If no deal, the reciprocal tariffs on Japan would be 24% across the board. Now, this is where you see some uncertainty coming into the market. Because a lot of people, I think, were anticipating that Trump was going to actually postpone or extend the deadline once again. But he comes out here saying that he's not thinking about extending it. We'll see how the market reacts. And especially, is this just another negotiation type tactic towards Japan? Is it making Japan think twice? And what you see in terms of its initial reaction, the S&P 500 is still staying pretty resilient. Right here at 6198, this was just under 6,000 not that long ago. So seeing here very basically at the 6,200 level looks pretty good for the S&P 500 index. Like I said, as we're just seeing a lot of rotation that is moving in to the Dow Jones. Big stocks that we have been seeing pull back are things like NVIDIA, Microsoft right here, rolling into Johnson & Johnson, like I mentioned before, United Health. And for the past 2 months, it was really a risk-on type of trade. And that's what we've been seeing since the tariff dip. A lot of risk on, a lot of fluffiness in the market, and cooling off right here, like I mentioned before, is an important thing for some of these moving averages to come back up. With the big beautiful bill, I believe that the market personally wants the prices in to pass and is looking more optimistic here, especially as passing the Senate's vote right here, now moving on to the House, which can still be rejected for changes to the legislation. The big question, is what kind of an impact is this going to have in terms of inflationary, economic type of pressure with that debt ceiling being raised. And the big question is, how sustainable is our debt as it keeps continuing to grow? There's so many different opinions on that we could make multiple videos given our opinions on, that matter. But nonetheless, we've seen Powell that's came out even today saying that the Fed would have likely cut rates again by now if it were not for tariffs. But what we've seen is tariffs actually, personally, in my opinion, have not made that crazy much of an impact to our inflationary numbers. Our macroeconomic data reports have been relatively well. In terms of those macroeconomic numbers, we were told and kind of scared by legacy media that, hey, inflation was going to go off the wall. And we just haven't really seen that in reality. So in terms of my personal reaction, I think I'll just be, dollar cost averaging into the major broader indexes. And what you see right here with the U.S. job market today and with the actual jobs data, U.S. job openings actually unexpectedly increased in May, but there is actually a decline in hiring added to signs that the labor market here is shifting. So some kind of mixed results from what the actual labor market is doing. So if we sit with this in terms of catalyst momentum, we do have a lot of uncertainty that rises in the markets on top of a shortened trading week and a lot of these stocks that are hanging out at their kind of support levels and getting into these consolidation levels. If this choppiness does continue at market open tomorrow, personally, I think I'll just be sitting on the sidelines and taking a little bit of a mental breather. It's important to take a mental breather, especially from looking at these numbers all day, to try to not get too far ahead of yourself. And importantly, over trading can be very, very detrimental. So that's what I'll be sitting at, looking at the market looking for different types of momentum movers. And of course, we could have some optimism. We are seeing a decent amount of people that are expecting hopefully a little bit of some optimism tomorrow. But sitting on the sidelines right now, continuing, like I said, a dollar cost average into those major ETFs and just enjoying the show. What do you guys make of this? Where do you think Palantir is heading from here? Robinhood, what do you think this is going to dip down to personally for Robinhood in terms of their view for, they're such a big generational industrial type of disruptor. What's that dip going to be for Robinhood? Or are we at that dip right now? And what do you make of everything else going on with the geopolitics? Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.